Hi guys, this is Alex here from Maganta German Shepherds. One of the topics I'm always asked by training clients and other people is what is the difference between fear aggression, reactivity, and general aggression? And how do you deal with a fearful dog? Let's unpack that because in this video I'm going to give you some advice. Obviously, I'm not going to cover a complex topic like aggression, reactivity, or fear in one short video. For that, you'll need to work with a professional behaviorist or dog trainer. I can give you some ideas for what to look for and how to better understand it. So when you do hire a professional, you are speaking in a more precise way to that person. All right, let's begin. The first question is, what is the difference between reactivity and aggression? Aggression is the deliberate desire to cause harm to the object being aggressed at. In other words, if I'm aggressing against a human being, aggression is the deliberate desire to cause pain to the human target, the direction that the aggression is directed against. If the other thing being aggressed at is another dog, aggression is the desire to cause pain and harm to the other dog. So you either have human on human, dog on human aggression or dog on dog aggression, but they're both aggression. Now, aggression can manifest in several forms. You can have territorial aggression, where the dog is seeking to protect property line. You can have boundary aggression, which is the dog barking behind a fence. It's very similar to territorial aggression, but not quite. You can have prey drive aggression. You can have defense drive aggression. You can have fear based aggression. You can also have sexual aggression in dominating a female when a male is really seeking to dominate and almost like rape a female. It's not quite rape, but it's kind of an aggressive display. The female is biting. Yeah, she might need a dominant male to subdue her in a forceful way. It comes across as aggression, but it's a little different. So aggression manifests itself in several forms. Again, territorial aggression, dog on human aggression, fear aggression, uh, and dominance aggression, prey drive aggression, and defense drive aggression. They're all aggression, but they're all different. Then, if that is aggression, then what is reactivity? Reactivity is not aggression. Reactivity is an excited emotional state where the dog is frustrated in what it wants to do. Let's say a dog is like a young dog, like a puppy, 8 months old. It sees another dog across the street and it goes, I want to play, I want to play. The dog is displaying frustration that it wants to say hello to the other dog, but because it's on a leash or being held by the owner, it's frustrated that it can't get to the other dog in a friendly overture. But as it becomes friendly, the other dog may interpret it as aggression, start barking back, and then the first dog starts barking back. So excitement and what was meant to be a friendly overture can turn into aggression. But it's not aggression at the outset. In other words, it's excitement and it's the frustration of excitement that is reactivity. The dog is reacting to something. It's reacting. It's not seeking aggression. It is seeking to react to something, a stimulus of some kind. Whether it's excited to meet a person and it's frustrated that it can't do that, it's excited to meet another dog and it's frustrated that it can't do that, or it's frustrated to get to a toy or an object of desire, it can't do that and it will redirect sometimes because you build it up, but you don't give it a release. And you'll see a redirection of that drive, especially in some high drive dogs where it can become aggression. So reactivity is not aggression at the outset. Reactivity is more like stress based response to a stimulus that can be solved by a redirection. In other words, you teach a dog an incompatible behavior. For example, let's say you taught the dog to look at you with a look at me command. And you've done that a lot of reps long before the aggression, long before it met another dog in the street, right? Sees another dog in the street And it's incompatible for it to look at you and look at the other dog in the street at the same time. Those are incompatible behaviors. It can't look at you and the other dog at the same time. So it's incompatible, right? Now, you get to it before the escalation of frustration rises. You do it quickly. So you walk away from the situation, get it away from the point of excitement, and then give me the look at me command or the watch me command, whatever you want to call it. And now it's focusing on you and it gets corrected for not looking at you and looking to the other dog, which it's excited to greet. Now you're teaching it the watch me command under distraction, which has been taught separately before. In order to teach before you add distractions, you teach in the learning phase, which does not involve distraction. So learning is done in stages in dog training. You have the learning phase where the dog is taught the behavior in what I call a lab coat environment. In other words, no distractions in the same setting, only with you, no duration, no distractions. It's a pristine environment like a white box, so to speak, where the dog is taught the behavior. Then you add in distractions and other locations, and eventually you teach the behavior under severe distraction. Like you teach a down command, another dog must pass by, and the dog must not break the down. The other dog passing by, and while the dog maintains the down, is teaching impulse control, not teaching necessarily the down command. Yes, the dog is doing a down command, but the dog is also exhibiting impulse control. Or the dog is taught not to barge through a door and pull you with a leash down the steps and pull you down so you can break your neck. That's impulse control. So while it's barrier control, it's also impulse control. So reactivity is a form, teaching against reactivity is a form of redirecting and impulse control versus aggression is a whole nother animal, a whole nother topic in itself. So don't confuse reactivity, which is frustration against something causing the reaction, versus outright aggression, which is aggression from the outset. Okay, that's the difference between reactivity and aggression. Reactivity can become aggression, but it's not the goal of the initial response to be aggression. I hope that's kind of clear. All right, well, what can we say about fear-based aggression? Fear-based aggression comes in several forms. One of the forms that is expressed as fear-based aggression is dogs which shake and shiver from uh, poor breeding that sometimes need to be on Prozac medicated by vets because they suffer anxiety without anything in their environment causing them anxiety. In other words, they're so nervous without anything causing it. They haven't been mistreated, they haven't been abused, yet they're shaking in their environment under without any cause. That's not a lack of socialization. That's bad nerves due to bad breeding. So that's one kind of fear-based behavior, purely genetics based. Another type of fear-based behavior is behavior from lack of socialization. The dog as a puppy has not been exposed to multiple people and places and reacts aggressively to something it's not familiar with because it doesn't know how to deal with it any other way. So it has learned that by showing teeth or barking or lunging, even worse, it is saying, I'm going to aggress against you before you can aggress against me. That is another form of fear-based aggression, lack of socialization. The way around that is to correct it with a prong collar pop, a strong pop on the leash, that the dog gets more from the correction of you popping it than it gets from the enjoyment of aggressive display. You showing leadership to the dog. Hey, cut that out, and the dog will understand. The dog has to have consequences. Now, what's another form of fear-based aggression? Another form of fear-based aggression is in protection-based breeds that see their job is to protect you and don't look at you as their leader. That is also a form of fear-based aggression, but that's more defense drive aggression as opposed to truly fear. Now, there's a difference between weak nerves and fear and defense drive. That topic about nerve and no nerve thresholds, I covered in my video on the books on dog training, where different methods of dog training were explored. So there's definitely a relationship between suspiciousness in the dog, defense aggression, and weak nerves and fear. Because your defensiveness comes from fear. Otherwise, why are you defensive? It's from fear. Or if you're in a fight, boxing match or a fist fight with somebody, right? You're fighting out of adrenaline and anger, but there's also a component of fear because as you're being punched, you're taking pain. To push through the pain, the fear of what's going to happen to you if you don't fight has to be greater than what you will do if you do fight. In other words, if you don't fight for your life, for example, and you're being attacked by a criminal, the consequence of you not fighting is greater than the consequence of you fighting. You see what I mean? So in this case, you're fighting out of defense and fear. So defense drive and fear are very closely connected. In my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, but the old DDR dogs from East Germany had thin nerves. Not all of them, some of them, because they were very hard to motivate, did not have much prey drive, and were purely defensive based. And in the wrong hands, they become fear biters as opposed to defense based defense. If the dog is bred to have weak nerves and high defense and suspiciousness, it can cause a serious issue. So, in about 15 to 20 years ago, the country of origin of the dog mattered because the breeding program of each country was different. In today's time, the country of origin of the dog is no longer relevant. So if I get a check line, if I have a preservation breeder of a DDR line, which is very rare, most of it is marketing hype, as I made a video on that. But if I have a preservation DDR breeder, a real preservation breeder, not just somebody who hypes a dog that was 5 generations ago DDR. But I'm talking about if you could go back in time to true DDR dogs, you have to be careful in what you select because high suspicion and defense and fear are closely connected if the nerves are weak. If the nerves are strong, that's a very powerful dog. But if the nerves are weak, that becomes a fear biter. That's a fine line there. And that's a topic in itself. Now, so you take the dog for a walk, and the dog assumes the leadership role, and it thinks it must defend you when you take it for a walk because it thinks it's the leader, not you. What's an analogy I can draw in nature to that? Say, for example, you have a wolf pack and it meets a jeep that was parked by some tourists in the forest. They went for a hike or to photograph nature, and they left their jeep parked, and then they went on a hiking trail. If the alpha male and female of that wolf pack come up to that jeep and start biting its tires, the rest of the wolf pack will join in and bite the tires. On the other hand, if the wolf pack, two leaders, male and female, alpha female, come over and piss on the tire to mark it, that this is our territory, how dare this object be in our territory, the rest of the wolf pack will follow these two leaders and also pee on these tires and then walk away. If the alpha male and female perceive that these are humans in our environment, we better be careful. They just look at the jeep, ignore it, and walk away. The rest of the wolf pack will also walk away. So a wolf pack follows a leader, and what the leader does, the rest of the pack joins in. The same thing is true in humans, by the way. We look to our leaders as to what we do. We don't act independently of our leaders, whether that's the class president in high school, the governor of a state, or the president of a country. We follow what our leaders tell us to follow and what to believe. That's what the role of leaders do. They inspire our behavior, for better or for worse. So, getting back to dogs, if the dog perceives you as not going to protect it, it must protect itself, that dog may put on an aggressive posture because it's defending it's assuming a leadership role. I'll tell you a story that happened to me in 2001. 2001, I had a dog named Andrew from back then, check lines of that time period, which were more like DDR lines of that time period. In my neighborhood, we were walking past a house which had three very nasty little pugs, which ran up to my dog and tried to attack it. And on multiple occasions, I would shoot them away. And I couldn't not walk past them to get to that grassy area where the dog would relieve itself. I had to walk past that house. There was no other way to walk. And when they were out, unleashed, no control by their owner, by themselves, they had a pack psychology because there were three of them. And despite they were very small, one of them was a bully and thought he was the leader. Clearly, he was showing the other two what to do. Now, I walked with a little bit of a limp in my right leg because I had surgery in my right leg, and I have a walking cane I was walking with because sometimes my right leg aches up. Now, my dog Andrew could have killed them and throw them 10 feet away. My job as his pack leader was to shoo them away and send them on their way. So I took my walking cane and I made an aggressive gesture like, if you come closer, I'm going to hit you. And in fact, if they did come closer, I would have hit him. So my job was to protect my dog as his pack leader. As I stood there with my walking cane, making a lot of noise to send them on their way, they kept making gestures like they want to come in for the bite. I didn't let them. My dog Andrew's respect for me grew immeasurably in his eyes because now he no longer walked like he needed to protect me. He saw me as his leader that will protect him. So this is fear-based aggression, but from a dog which is bred for a high defense drive that also has a leadership rank drive. In such a case, you must show leadership and your dog will understand its role that you protect him instead of him protecting you. And that whole dynamic must shift. So you must ask yourself, what is your view as a leader in your dog's eyes? How does your dog see you? If your dog respects your leadership, the dog will see it's not its need to protect you, but you will protect him as the senior pack member. On the other hand, if the dog doesn't respect you, he thinks he has to protect himself and you because he has no other choice. Anyhow, this is a big topic about aggression. There's a lot of subtopics, much more than I wanted to make a short video about, but I hope this information on reactivity, fear-based aggression, dominance-based aggression, prey drive aggression, reactivity has been helpful to you. Okay, signing off. Please read the description for other information. Take care now, guys, and don't forget to click like and subscribe.